Let's get it kicked off. So what are we going to be talking about today? So first, we've got a couple of use cases about how to leverage HubDB and Ops Hub and CMS Hub and different iterations of those tools. We've also got a use case around live chat and custom code. Jack will be showing you some screen shares, some live demoing of some of these builds. And then, of course, we're going to answer all of your questions. So let's dig in. First use case of the day. So creating a more personalized customer experience by leveraging Ops Hub, CMS Hub, and HubDB all together. So let's see what we've got here. So sounds like the big picture setup, and Jack, I'll let you sort of take over here for the nitty gritty, but the big picture setup is somebody converts on your website, that action queries HubDB, puts the data into HubDB, and then autofills a token into an email. So it operates as your database to pull in information and then use that for personalization in email.
That is precisely it. Yeah, I'm happy to run through things in a moment, but yeah, HubDB is basically, it's a database, and typically people will use it to create dynamic pages on HubSpot on the CMS. But one of the unique things when you employ Operations Hub in conjunction with it is that you can actually query HubDB. And this is an interesting way to use it, because if you've got maybe a large resource library or product library or whatever it is you want to store in there, you can very quickly pull data out of HubDB and personalize email with it, or even use smart content on various web pages within the CMS. So lots of potential there. Yeah, that's exactly what I was hoping to run through today, so I can give you a little bit of an overview as to how all of this works. So what I'll do is I will share my screen and we can run through this. So bear with me 1 second while I find the right screen to share. There we go. So in a moment, you should hopefully see my own contact record loading up in the HubSpot CRM. And just to set the scene a little bit here, you'll notice on the left-hand side, I've got a section here. I've called it HubDB resources, but you'll see we have product of interest, resource name, description, link, and image URL. Now, at the moment, they're blank, but what will actually happen is that, when I go to the website and maybe I choose from a dropdown the product that I'm interested in, okay, and I might just choose Operations Hub as an example and save this. You can imagine I've actually gone to a website and converted on a form, but that property is updated. And what's happening in the background, and we'll break this down in a moment, is that a workflow, which is HubSpot's automation tool, is now querying a table in HubDB that contains resources relating to Operations Hub. And you should actually see in a moment, if all of this has gone to plan, if I refresh the record, first of all, yeah, you'll see here those fields have actually populated, which is great. So we've got the resource name, the description, a link, and the image. Now, obviously, that looks a little bit ugly there, but we're going to use that in personalization within an email, or we might segment and use smart content on the page itself. But if we actually look at what's happened here, you'll actually see here, if I drag my email inbox into view, I've just received an email there, literally just a moment ago, and you'll see that it's personalized. Operations Hub, hey Jack, thanks for your interest in Operations Hub. We've got a nice description, and then we've a link off to the Operations Hub product page on the HubSpot website whenever it decides to go through. What made that possible? So you'll see here I've created a table within HubDB. So this is HubDB in all of its glory, and you can create various tables to host different types of data in rows. And you'll see that I've created a table where I've got resource types, the name of the resource, the link to the resource, the description of the resource, and images for each resource. And what I actually have is a workflow that is running. So this is my workflow. And anytime someone in the CRM has a product of interest that is known, they've either we've manually set it or update it. As soon as that product of interest property is known, this workflow triggers. And you can see here, we've got this custom code snippet, which is where the brains of the operation lives. This is responsible for actually querying that HubDB table that we just looked at. Now, I will share the code that makes this possible. I won't break the code down line for line, because I think it's not exactly the most exciting thing to run through. But basically what's happening here is we're querying that database. So you'll see here, it's a little bit hard to see, but I'll zoom in. On line number 15, I'm querying my table and I'm passing through the product of interest. And that's going to give me back some results, which I'm going to store in contact properties. So the next part of this workflow is that I'm copying all of the results that that coded action has returned into those properties that we saw in the contact record. And then to complete the whole puzzle here, we're then sending an email. Now, what that email looks like is what you see here, just a very simple, basic email where we've got personalization tokens included. But the really interesting thing is that before that email is sent, the coded action is doing its job of querying HubDB. It's retrieving that data, we're storing it in properties, and then using personalization, we're able to enrich that experience. And it doesn't just have to do with email. I would actually encourage people to even consider using this on as smart content across their website. So, so long as we know that people are interested in certain products and they've received certain resources, maybe we can create smart rules to show or surface other types of resources or change the messaging. So lots of interesting ways that you could expand on this. And as I say, I'm happy to share the code and the mechanics of how all of this worked afterwards. I might hand it back over to you. Or sorry, Emily, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, to take it a bit further, my marketing wheels are starting to turn. I saw in your HubDB table that you had an image, and for all of you who are not aware, HubSpot offers rich text fields. So I'm thinking that email could have formatted bulleting, it could have bigger images, it could, and that's just, the possibilities start to really open up. And that's a big part and due to the flexibility of HubDB and Ops Hub, of course, as well. But yeah, very, very cool.
Exactly. I'm actually glad you pointed that out, because I should have probably said it, that all of these rows, or all of these columns rather, they can hold different types of data. But if we even look at the description and we maybe edit this, you'll see that it's a rich text module. So I could actually make, okay, this isn't going to look the prettiest, but let's imagine I, make this a H1 tag. And maybe I make this bold or change the color, and I can even add emojis and all this type of thing. So I don't know if this will work, but we'll try. So you have this looking nice and pretty, and we publish that table. So there it is. If we do the exact same thing, and this will keep me honest because it'll show that I haven't just set this up to send me an operations hub via email. If I change this now to Marketing Hub and save it, so again, the workflow is detecting that change, it's querying that database. In a moment, these properties will update. I have to refresh the page. It will take a second or two, but we should hopefully see, yeah, there we go. We'll actually see the properties have updated, and this time we've actually got you'll see we're storing the HTML of the rich text editor, and the email that I get should actually have, so this time the second email that I get, apologies, there we go. Okay, so I have to do a bit of fixing here, but you'll see that we've actually output some of that. So that's formatting that I need to fix, but hopefully that shows you the types of things you can do. So lots of ways to expand on it and get as creative as you like. The sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, I think another call out here, and just why this webinar series is so wonderful. It's coming from the marketing brain, the web brain. It's very difficult when looking at Ops Hub alone, singularly. It's hard to come up with creative solutions, right? Like my brain personally doesn't necessarily work that way, but seeing you do this, the wheels already start turning. Like I can already start thinking of new ideas and ways to be creative and different paths that I can send my customers or whoever down. And yeah, it's just awesome to be able to put these two things together in a way where the brains are kind of meeting in the middle.
Exactly. I always say, and this is no disrespect to the tool, but Operations Hub on its own is effectively useless. It's when you couple it with the wider hubs that we offer. So whether it's all of them or just CMS or marketing, that's when the possibilities start to emerge. So it just adds a bit more flexibility to the solution overall. And I've been in HubSpot for sort of 5.5 years. So I think, with the product knowledge I have and the things that I've seen it do, it gives me some inspiration and ideas of ways that it can be used. And I learn from the clients and customers I talk to every day as well. I see one actually in the meeting room, Callie there, who I was speaking with, who has attended a lot of these sessions. There's a lot of people in the community that are doing some really exciting things with Operations Hub. So it's a cool space to be in.
Definitely. Let's move on. Okay, so we've got another use case. This is the one, admittedly, to the group I sort of came up with this morning. So I'm going to push mine and Jack's brains to be able to riff on this and really break it apart. But it's Ops Hub and CMS Hub without the HubDB component. So theoretically, someone lands on your website, Ops Hub data sync with an external source and then content can be dynamic based on that external data. So Caitlin, if you go to the next slide. So say that a client needed just to display a personalized CTA for vendors. So they're doing a holiday gifting campaign. They don't want to give the same gift options to their vendors that they do to their customers or what have you. That's the use case that we're working off of. But let's say that the vendors aren't in HubSpot, or at least that contact type isn't in HubSpot. Say it's in NetSuite or some other ERP. So they send out an email to their prospects, customers, vendors, and they have a link that goes to the same web page. I think this would be triggered, the workflow would be triggered off of either clicking that CTA in the email, or potentially you could do it off of a custom behavioral event. But once that happens, there's a one-way sync from NetSuite to HubSpot moving over that contact type information. And I think that it would be able to render fast enough to make that secondary page personalized. What are your thoughts on this, Jack? Think it's doable?
Absolutely. So the Up Hub data sync component is, basically a suite of connectors that we offer that allow you to sync data bidirectionally between HubSpot and, in this case, NetSuite. So absolutely, when you incorporate this into the solution, it opens up all sorts of possibilities.
Right. And if you also consider that you could do it one way, external system to HubSpot, or HubSpot to external system, or two-way, as you're saying, that also starts to get my wheels turning about like, okay, well, what data is where? And do I really need to have all of that data in HubSpot? Can I query it from this external database and bring it over? Do we have to do some big migration, or can we do it as sort of contacts are going through the funnel and taking the actions that we want them to? So pretty cool, man. This is really cool. I like this stuff. What do we have next? And I don't have a very cool screen share and build for this one, unfortunately. We've got Jack for that. So next use case here is using live chat with custom code. This is a very, very cool use case. So creating a human-like experience. So how does this work?
Oh, sorry if I cut across you there. I was just, this is the thing that I think is completely underutilized within HubSpot and with Operations Hub. I rarely get a chance to talk about it, so I'm happy to be able to in this session. And I'd encourage everyone to kind of think about how it might help with their own website. So if you're using the HubSpot CMS, you're going to be able to have live chat. You're also going to be able to put bots on the various pages on your website. So that's great. And I think everyone has interacted with a chatbot at some time or other, and it's just a handy medium for people to reach out. But when you bring Operations Hub into the mix, what it allows you to do is, in the same way that we use custom coded automation in the workflows to do kind of very bespoke advanced things, you can do the same with bots. So I've seen this used in a few ways. Maybe you're in the hospitality sector and you want people to maybe book a reservation selflessly through a bot or touchlessly. Maybe you're a restaurant and in the catering business, and you want people to check availability of tables for a certain time. You can use a bot to communicate with the reservation system. Even in e-commerce or any sort of industry where a transaction occurs, you might have order updates or statuses based on order numbers being given. Now, the example I chose just purely because I thought it was an interesting one is I integrated a bot with Ticketmaster, which is a popular ticketing platform that people can buy tickets to various events. But happy to walk you through how it works, and it'll give you a taste of what's possible. Maybe could I share my screen and we can run through that. So in a moment, you'll hopefully see my screen appearing, and this time we won't be looking at a workflow, but we'll be looking at our chat flow tool. So similar to workflows, the chat flow tool basically allows you to string together various actions. So you can see here, I've got a couple of actions here. That I can leverage. Now, the one that we're most concerned about today is the ability to run custom code snippets. So there you go. You can see we can run a custom code snippet in this bot. Now, the flow I have is that when someone arrives on the website, we can ask them what region they're in, what territory they're in. We have some preset options here, and then based on what they select, we record that. And then we ask the next question. We say, well, how many events do you want to see that's happening in your specific area? It's not the most exciting of examples, but it was all I could think of at the time. So what we then do is based on their geography and based on the number of events they're interested in, or you could get very advanced and maybe they have preferences or artists they like or whatever the case may be. We query the external system, in this case, Ticketmaster. They have a discovery API where you can pull all sorts of events out of their system, and we surface what's relevant to the individual. So it's all well and good me talking about it, but if I show you an example, if I click on the preview option here, you'll see that my little bot has loaded up. So there it is. This in reality would be on my website. I'm based in Ireland, so I'm going to choose Ireland. And you'll see now the bot in a moment is going to ask me, right, well, you're in Ireland, how many events would you like to have returned? So I'm going to say, well, I'd like to see one event that's happening in my locality. At this point in time, that custom coded action is now querying Ticketmaster with that data. And you'll actually see the Eagles, who are a great band, have popped up here, happening in the Viva Stadium, great venue. I've got my link, and I've just chosen to surface some accessibility information. What I also have done is I've set this up to just loop back around on itself, so we can start the process again. And in this case, let's say I'm in the UK. And again, just like previously, I might want to look for this time 2 events that are happening within the UK region. It's a little bit broad, but we could get more specific. And what you'll notice now is different information is actually, I can kind of see people, oh yeah, making jokes about the Eagles. It's great, it's a great band. You'll see now we're actually getting different results back. So we're getting, I think, Harry Potter and Cursed Child parts 1 and 2 happening at the Palace Theatre. I think there's multiple listings here coming back. So hopefully this is just illustrating how you could actually integrate this bot to perform all sorts of actions. And it's just, I think it's a really interesting area, and there's so many use cases for it. And what's more is I'm happy to, after this session, or even do it now, I've got a useful article that I can share with everybody if you're interested, where I've basically run through building that exact Ticketmaster bot that we see there. So I'll happily drop that in the chat, and you're free to kind of run through all this. Is all the instructions that you need. It's quite extensive, but by the end of it, you end up with a cool little bot that does that. And I think it's a really good foundation to expand upon. So yeah, hopefully that is helpful.
That is so impressive. That is very cool.
It's to be honest, I rarely get to talk about it. I haven't really, when I see examples, they're really cool and I'm delighted people are doing it, but I don't know if it's a talked about feature that much. So I'm delighted it's got a bit of airtime.
Again, it's hard to put 2 and 2 together with Ops Hub and CMS Hub. Honestly, if you don't have both brains in the room, so I'm thrilled that you've been able to display and demonstrate how great examples of how we can use both of these features together. I see that we're on the questions slide, and I'm going to totally hijack because I have a question for you, Jack. You're the Ops Hub expert, and I know that one of the things you can do with it is cleanse data, normalize data. Could you extend that to data that may be on pages because it's a custom object record that's being displayed onto a page, dynamic content page?
Actually, yes, you could. It's a really good idea. So if you're using custom objects, maybe a common one I've seen people use custom objects to represent maybe properties if they're in the real estate business. So you might have various properties or whatever in the HubSpot CRM that you're editing or modifying. But you could have a custom coded action maybe that is, for argument's sake, it's set to run at the end of every day, and maybe it just checks to see if those properties are still available or has the price gone up or down. And what it does then is it'll update the properties of those objects, and that has the knock-on effect of updating the content that's live on the website. So absolutely, there's ways to do it using custom coded automation.
Yeah, and it depends, I guess, on your dev workflow or the production workflow. But if you've got folks who are adding properties to, or filling in the values of properties on a custom object record, and maybe they fat finger something, right? They typo something, then you can run something like you said every night that's going to go back and normalize it to make sure that, California is spelled correctly or Eagles is spelled correctly. Yeah,
absolutely. There's all sorts of and the great thing is you could choose to, with custom code, you have a blank canvas and you can get as creative and as advanced as you like with that logic. But then another thing, is that we have data formatting, which is an out of the box action that Operations Hub provides, which allows you to perform pre-built operations or formulas on properties. So it could be something as simple as capitalization of properties. It could be stripping characters out of properties if there is maybe a typo or some random HTML tag there. There's other adding or subtracting times to dates, loads of different opportunities there to consider.
Very interesting. Okay, so we have some questions in the portal here. So I've got a question regarding data sync feature of Operations Hub. As it stands, data sync only works with single line text properties, but we can't sync complex fields two-way between HubSpot and third-party systems. How can we sync drop-down values from a third party to HubSpot and vice versa? Is that available today?
So yeah, it's a good question, and happy to take it. It's not. We are working on it. It is certainly a limitation of data sync. What I would say is that data sync is available on 2 tiers, by the way. It's a free tool that anyone can use, and it'll give you access to some mappings between, I think there's 105 connectors into HubSpot. There's a starter tier, which is, I think, $40, and it lets you create some additional or custom mappings. But there are certain limitations to the types of fields you can map at present. And one of those is that enumeration fields, fields with multiple values, cannot. Now, what people do, and it's not always a great workaround, but I guess we have to work with what we have, is they would map that data to single line text fields and bring it into the HubSpot system. But what I can say is we are working on introducing that functionality, but I unfortunately don't have timelines to share or anything like that, but it is in the works, and it is the single biggest ask, of course, for obvious reasons.
I also see Callie responded saying that they create single line text properties with the tag of data sync and then have an automation run to copy it over, and that it's working for them.
That's it. That's basically the recommended approach for now, and it's worked for clients that I've interacted with. So.
Ooh, this is a good one from April, who I know. What is the most impressive coded action you've encountered? I'm gonna have to give that one to you, Jack.
Well, that's actually a really interesting one. So it's actually a good opportunity to give the programmable automation use case library a shout out, because that's a collection of all of the coded snippets that people are submitting, whether it's internal HubSpotters or external partners or developers. There's lots of interesting ones there. I've seen a couple. A colleague of mine built a really interesting one around. It's basically, if memory serves me, when a ticket was created, it would ping some sort of AI platform that would look at the properties relating to the ticket and basically summarize the issue and roll that up into a field on the ticket level in the CRM, so that the support individual or whoever had to access that had a kind of an overview of it that wasn't just the description. Not sure exactly what they used, but it was pretty cool. I've seen some other interesting ones around advanced, or like weighted lead rotation on the sales side. So people incorporating kind of complex logic based on territories that people work, performance of the sales individuals that are operating those territories. It really is hard to pin it down on a specific one, but there are tons of interesting ones out there.
I'll butcher this, but for one of our clients, Palo Alto University, we did some. So their website is on HubSpot CMS, and they sell online courses. It's the online division of that school, and the purchasing those courses is through Shopify, but the catalog pages, the individual listing pages, they're all still built in HubSpot. So we're using Shopify headlessly. Now, what can happen, it's not necessarily an edge case. It happens a good bit of the time, but someone will go in and buy a course, and you can buy that course for multiple people. And how it was sort of built initially was whoever bought the course would be the one that's also enrolled in the course. So there's an enrollment object, a custom object inside of HubSpot. So I believe that the coded action made it so that the person who purchases the course can either not be the one enrolled in the course, or they can be the one enrolled in the course, and they can also enroll other people into the course. And it's all, there's a payment that's happening. There's an association that's happening behind the scenes. There's obviously the whole headless component. And again, I've probably butchered that. I'm not giving you guys super clean details on the dev side, but a lot of data was being moved around in a really seamless and quick way for a purchasing experience of an online course that actually works for the enrollment component, because there's an LMS integration, which I failed to mention, Thinkific. So lots of stuff going on with that one, but it all works. So for the front end, it's amazing. The back end, it's a lot of stuff, but it's being housed in a lot of coded actions.
That sounds pretty awesome in fairness. And actually, it reminds me, there's one other that I sent over to April was push notifications. We all know and love them, whether they're mobile or web. But there's a colleague of mine who works on our solution architecting team, and he created a custom coded action that triggers push notifications using a service called Firebase, which is a Google service. So basically, when something happens in the CRM, triggering a push notification to an individual with some information. So yeah, it's one of the really great things about Operations Hub. It's every day people are finding new and creative ways to use it. It's still quite a young product in that sense. It's only about I want to say a little over a year and a half old, if memory serves, and it's come a long way in that space of time. And I think there's so much more potential there that has yet to be discovered.
Do you think it's safe to say, Jack, and this is sort of how I, especially when I was first learning Ops Hub and trying to make it fit into my brain for web use cases, do you think it's safe to say that for the marketers out there who may be like me and have trouble putting all this stuff together to get creative, that if you think about workflows and all of the things that you do in workflows natively in HubSpot, whatever it is that you can't do in that workflow, Ops Hub is probably going to be able to do it for you. So it doesn't necessarily open up a ton of creativity, but at least it gets the concept going, perhaps.
That is exactly it. And yeah, I think so. I mean, I've spoke to lots of customers, even one I spoke with yesterday, who, in my opinion, would be considered like a power user of the platform. And I think, naturally, if you're using a system to its capabilities, you're going to come up against certain issues or maybe challenges that you try to get around, and Operations Hub tends to be a good option to explore because it does give them that canvas to build out the additional functionality. There is limitations to be mindful of, and like anything, you got to be conscious of it. Around logic can only run for 20 seconds, so I haven't seen anyone hit this, but if you've got if you were hitting that, I suspect maybe you've got some crazy sort of operation that could be streamlined. It can consume certain amounts of memory when it runs, and it's 128 megs. Again, I haven't seen anyone hit that, but there is, barriers there to be mindful of. And obviously one big one, which I think is mistaken from time to time or not considered, is you could have Operations Hub and you want to connect HubSpot to system X, Y, or Z, and you could have the most talented, RevOps person or developer in the world. But if the APIs don't exist on the receiving end or the external system, there's not a whole lot that can be done. And a colleague of mine, Ari, actually has a great analogy for that. It's almost as if you can imagine trying to, you have an iPhone and you want to give your friend a phone call, but they don't have a mobile. That's not your fault, that's on them, and they need to fix that. So I see that a lot where people want to use Operations Hub to bridge that gap, but unfortunately, because of limitations on the interfacing system side, just can't be done. But that's an issue you'd face, regardless of the solution you explore.
For those asking about the Palo Alto custom coded action, I believe we have a case study on that on our website. I was just chatting Caitlin, and then also we did a webinar where I went under the hood, showed the build of the site on a webinar with Dennis and the CMS webinar series. So we can find those links and get those to you guys. The case study is not published yet, I just saw, but we'll get the webinar link over to you guys. Any more questions in the chat? Not seeing any. this may be our close, guys. I appreciate you guys for all the questions, for tuning in. Jack, thank you so much. This really helped me, and I hope that there's some other like-minded marketers or web folks in the group that are also receiving that same benefit. So thank you. Thank you, Jan.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and it's been great to be involved, and it's been a good turnout for every session, and the audience has been really engaged. So thanks for all the great questions from everybody, and for taking time out of your day to join and listen to us ramble on. So much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining, everyone. We hope to see you on May 26th for the series finale of this workshop series that we're doing with Aptitude 8. I've just put the link in the chat, so if you want to sign up for that, feel free to do so. It will be we'll talk about HubSpot in general and what like holistic use cases, ways to power HubSpot up with Operations Hub. Should be a lot of fun. But yeah,
I feel for that one, Jan. You need to dress up or something as a sprocket or something like that, just to
Oh no, I have to do that.
Get this sprocket suit out of the attic.
I'll see what I can find, but I'll probably have to disappoint you. Any case, see you all at our next event, and take care. Bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.